All right, we're going to get right into it here. I have limited time, so I'm just going to lay out the burger problem so that nobody can say that I didn't lay it out clearly or whatever. Okay, first of all, the libertarian presuppositions are actually kind of stupid. I think it's kind of like the same thing as where people say that prostitution is the world's oldest profession. Do you believe that? Do you believe that prostitution is the world's oldest profession? Right? Because it's stupid. Because if prostitution was the world's oldest profession, who had money to pay the prostitute? Obviously, the guy, whatever job the guy who paid the first prostitute was actually the person with the world's oldest profession. Not the prostitute. The man who paid the prostitute, whatever his job was, is actually the world's oldest profession. And you see, this connects to the way that libertarians view property ownership, right? Because if the only way that you can legally own property in libertarianism is through a voluntary transaction, then how did the first person come to own property? How did the first person come to own property? Before anyone owned property, people used property. People used land. People used tools. People used animals. That's questionable if animals are property. People used food, right? People used systems of knowledge, books, logic, reason, right? And at some point, we crossed over into this capitalist system, right? And at some point, at least hypothetically, there was the first person to quote unquote make a voluntary transaction of property, but the precondition for them to have that property was not them making a voluntary transaction, but in fact, they just took the property by force. The first person to own land just walked onto the land and said, "This is now my land." So that train of logic right there disproves libertarianism, because the presupposition of land ownership is that it has to be a voluntary transaction. But the first person that owns land does not make a voluntary transaction. They take the land by force, violating the non-aggression principle, which is the presupposition of your entire worldview. Okay? I'm really trying not to get mad, but you're insulting me. You're saying that you would kill me. This is ridiculous. I'm not saying I would kill you, bro. Like, are you fucking kidding me? You're talking about, oh, somebody's controlling your mind. No, you're trying to emotionally manipulate people by saying that you would kill them. That you would kill them. Oh, you don't think that evokes an emotion, bro? You think I'm stupid? Come on. All right. So we're going to get into the hamburger problem now that libertarians cannot answer, because their presupposition of non-aggression falls out the window when it comes to proprietary property ownership, the first person to own the property that doesn't have to do a voluntary transaction for it, right? So in my hypothetical that I created on my own, I created this on my own. Nobody told me about this. Nobody made this up for me. No one's brainwashing me. I made this up on my own. I made up the hamburger problem. All right. So the hamburger problem is as such. Two people magically spawn onto a desert island in the middle of the ocean where there's no food, water, resources, or anything else that they can use, except there's one hamburger. Now, hypothetically, obviously, this hamburger just could represent anything. Any source of nutrients or shelter or any necessity for a human being to live, right? And there's only enough for one person. We can say there's only one woman, right? There's only one woman and only one man can get her pregnant, right? There's only one cup of water. There's only one plant that we can eat, right? And you can go, oh, well, yeah, but that's not how reality works, and blah, blah, blah. But I can say the same thing about anarcho-capitalism. Oh, that's not how reality works either. So we're doing a logical hypothetical, right? And going to the presuppositions, right? And your presupposition is the non-aggression principle, that you should never aggress. Never, ever, ever, ever aggress. Okay. But how do you get property when no one owns it? You have to take it by force. Okay, so the burger problem. 2 people spawn on an island, right? And there's one hamburger there. They spawn at the exact same time. No one owns the hamburger. Both people spawn at the exact same time. They see the hamburger at the exact same second. They're equidistant from the hamburger, right? Each person in their mind feels that they need the entire hamburger. Because I know, oh, well, why don't we split the hamburger in half? Well, maybe one person wants to split in half. The other guy doesn't want, he's like, I need the whole burger, right? Because that's how people are. It's human nature, right? How do you determine who owns the hamburger? Libertarians? How do you determine who owns the hamburger in this hypothetical situation? Please discuss amongst yourselves and somebody produce an answer. And until then, stop bitching at me about morals and telling me that you would shoot me, because it's fucking ridiculous. Answer the question, or just stop talking. All right. That was the hamburger problem that I created myself. I'm not brainwashed. No one's manipulating me or telling me to do it. Have a good day and peace.